That's right. The doctors don't even know how to treat these diseases that are coming forward. Mike DeAngelis, married to Lori, both of them are captains. Lori runs a dolphin education cruise. She hasn't been able to go out because their boats have been registered for vessels of opportunity because they needed the money, quite frankly. You know, these are people that are working class people. Mike, as a captain, when they registered their boat, was getting paid $1,200 a day, $200 for extra crew members, and what were they doing? Nothing. There was a joke around the Gulf that you're on BP time, being paid for doing nothing. One of the most moving stories was really flying with a barefoot pilot named Tom Hutchings. In the American Southwest, we would call him a coyote. Again, an activist. He was taking people as a volunteer for South Wings. Anyone who would go with him to fly over the Macondo well site. We went with him on day 100. Upper right-hand corner of the New York Times, you'll remember the article that said most of the oil is gone, 80%. You'll remember a week later, Carol Browner of the Obama administration said, 75% gone, poof, Mother Nature's doing her job. What I can tell you is that as we flew out to the Gulf, to what they call the source, to see the Deepwater Horizon rigs, for as far as we could see, for as wide as we could see, for as long as we could bear it, oil. All we could see was oil. I mean, it's just, I wonder where is our outrage? And I was saying to Tom, this brilliant pilot, you know, that must have made 20, 30, 40 flights at his own expense, why isn't this story being told? And he was saying that most of what we've heard has been shore-based knowledge. I mean, there were rivers of oil as wide as the Mississippi itself. Stunning. When I asked him what has stayed in his mind most in terms of his witnessing, he said that when they were burning the oil off the surface of the sea, he remembers on the edge of the flames seeing a pod of dolphins side by side by side by side, watching, simply watching the ocean burn. I think the other untold story are the dispersants. We know, thanks to Congressman Markey from Massachusetts, that after the EPA said, please, to BP, find another dispersant that is less toxic. What we know now is that our Coast Guard, the United States Coast Guard, gave BP 74 exceptions in 48 days. And that's the untold story, and I think that's where so much of this illness is rising from. And we hear from the scientists, 2 inches of oil on the bottom of the sea. The scientist, Samantha Joy, said it's a graveyard for the macrofauna, and that the Gulf is dying from the bottom up. And again, that's what I wanted to see, is what are the stories from the ground up, from the people who live there. Again, witnesses, not a passive act.
And as you mentioned, this is not just a regional catastrophe, but this fall, a billion birds will migrate from across North America through the Gulf of Mexico and the area, and the impact could then obviously spread for the bird population throughout the hemisphere.
That's correct. And as we speak, as you say, a billion birds migrating through the Gulf of Mexico. The Mississippi Delta sees 70% of our waterfowl. You know, I think that's the other untold story that touched me so deeply, was the beauty. It's still there against all odds. The Gulf is still there, and you'd fly over and see these beautiful islands, these islands beaded with birds, pelicans, skimmers, the feathered skimmers, not the boats, piping plovers who are endangered. You know, we'd fly over and see, you know, these extraordinary manta rays, 25-foot wingspan, 3,000 pounds, looking like black angels on the turquoise water. It's such an extraordinary landscape. I had no idea. And I think what's interesting, and I do have faith in Obama's commission, that's saying let's look not at the protection of putting more levees, more canals that cut up the system, the ecosystem, but let's think about really restoration, even a full restoration project of the Mississippi Delta, the Mississippi River itself. And that's where I see the hope.
Terry Tempest Wiliams, we want to thank you very much for being with us. Writer, environmentalist. Her books include Finding Beauty in a Broken World and The Open Space of Democracy. Her latest piece was just published in Orion magazine on the 6-month anniversary of the Gulf oil spill. It's called The Gulf Between Us. She was speaking to us from Salt Lake City, Utah. This is Democracy Now! We'll be back in a minute.